What up, Internet?
Hey there, camera.
This is Bumbling Tourist.
It is.
And in this video, we'll be talking about our very first trip together.
Yeah, your first trip in general. So, I guess back in summer of 2014, I was searching on the interwebs, as you do, to find cheap flights. And I found a flight to Japan for around $900. I remember you walking home from work, and I was sitting on the front porch. Do you want to go to Japan?
I said yes.
And I bought us 2 flights on the spot. And then we had to go through a lengthy process of getting your birth certificate and your passport and everything, but was it worth it?
Yes it was.
And as they say, the rest is history. You've always wanted to go to Japan?
Yeah, I'd always said in general that I wanted to travel, but thought, oh, I can't possibly afford that. I can't possibly travel. Thankfully, you showed me that it's really not that crazy.
You can do it for really cheap if you're cheap, and I'm cheap.
Yeah, lots of budget options out there.
Mm-hmm. It was an amazing trip, and I think that definitely gave you the travel bug, the travel fever. We kind of wanted to recap a bit of that trip, because we've got a bunch of footage we filmed while we were on that trip, but it was before we had this channel, or before we were actually filming for travel YouTube content. But we were filming for...
rap videos.
Yeah.
Promoted it on my music pages on Facebook and such as a tour, which is ridiculous because I was only playing open mics, and of those open mics, I was only actually able to perform at one. Man, it's gonna be over. So I played one open mic, but according to my Facebook page, it was a Japanese tour. So.
But in all honesty, he did rap all over Japan.
It's true.
Just not for an audience, unless you count me and that small child on a bicycle in Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time, we didn't even have a camera, really. We
No.
borrowed your mother's camera. Yeah, I was very insistent that we make a music video, which ended up being 4, but only one of them is any good.
But we have tons of footage of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gave us the initial kind of urge to want to film travel things. Although our next trip we went on, we didn't film anything really either except for rap videos.
Just rap videos, yeah. It wasn't until our third trip together that we started making vlogs. And we dipped our toes into filming Canadian waterfalls as a sort of vlog before that.
I just hit record.
That was our tutorial into how do you do this?
Yeah, exactly. But to talk a little bit about that first trip to Japan, I mean, some of the absolute highlights for us were Hiroshima, obviously. We love that city so much, not just because they do okonomiyaki right. Yes, they do okonomiyaki better than Osaka.
Sorry,
in your
Osaka.
face, Osaka. But they have a place called Okonomimura, which is multiple floors of okonomiyaki shops, and you just can't beat that. Not to mention the city's super laid back, but also metropolitan in a way I can't describe. Plus all the history, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite stop along that trip as well. Hida Village in Takayama was also an amazing point in that trip.
For sure. Our very first day, we explored Odaiba, which we loved, which was kind of an interesting first experience of Japan for you. This just giant island full of nerdy, kind of borderline tacky amazingness.
Yeah. Right. Loud. Fun.
We liked Kyoto, although we've got some...
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship. You hear a lot of people who love Japan, who even love Kyoto, talk shit about Kyoto, and it's because of people like us, really. There's so many tourists there that it's really hard to enjoy. But when you can break away from the crowds and enjoy the truly beautiful scenes of Kyoto, then it's beautiful.
2 giant points I would express if you are going to go to Kyoto. Number 1, make sure you go to the big temples like Kiyomizu-dera right when they open, because we had Kiyomizu-dera almost completely to ourselves because we were there right as it opened. Also,
still vacuuming.
We're still vacuuming. But also, if you go to Fushimi Inari, the iconic orange torii gates, make sure you keep going past the halfway point, because you will get giant sections of it to yourself if you just get past that first, couple hundred meters where everybody wants to take selfies and is stopping and there's traffic jams.
If it's a half-hour walk to the top, then the first 5 minutes is all Instagrammers.
Mm-hmm.
And then past that wall of Instagrammers is an enjoyable experience.
That first trip was where we were first introduced to the wonderful world of Kotatsus, which we talked about in our Kotatsu video.
Currently sitting at.
We are sitting at our Kotatsu. Kawaguchico, which is a little town just outside Mount Fuji, is actually where this Kotatsu came from, and also the first place we really experienced a Kotatsu, which is kind of a neat little coincidence.
Kawaguchico is arguably the best place to view Mount Fuji from.
Mm-hmm. We stayed at a cute little Japanese man's house, and
they have a wonderful Facebook group. We'll put a link in the description below.
Yeah. The neatest part was we arrived at night after a bit of a stressful trip all the way from Hiroshima. We went to sleep, and when we woke up, you went to the washroom, and I opened up the curtains in our room, and outside was Mount Fuji just perfectly right there in our window, and I thought, Mount Fuji, it was out there all night. Like, it was watching us sleep from right outside the window, and that was magical. I think I have a picture of that. If I do, I will share it for you.
An important point that I kind of glossed over earlier when I was saying I always wanted to travel, Japan was definitely the absolute top of my list. Because of films and cartoons and video games, I've just always loved.
Can't tell we're giant nerds.
All things Japanese have appealed to me for a very long time. So to finally see the real life version of things I've seen depicted, absolutely delightful.
The first time I went with you, we went in fall, which was incredible as the leaves were all changing color. The temperature was in the 20s a lot of the days, nice and warm. On top of that, our trip coincided with Halloween in Shibuya, which was magical.
Very tough.
Something I'm very glad we experienced.
Yeah, that's changed quite a bit since then as well. Now you're not allowed to drink, this year in particular. Right?
This year there was nothing going on at all, but
Probably more than they wanted to, based on some videos we saw online.
yeah. I guess the whole point of this video was kind of just to
Reminisce.
about that very first trip for you in Japan, my third trip. But it's nice to see places with people where you can sit down and reminisce with them. When I was traveling on my own, I didn't really have that luxury because you can only talk with your family members and friends so much about a trip they haven't been on before they get annoyed.
A cool part about this trip was getting to weigh the Nara experience versus the Miyajima experience.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to see these two deer-filled locations. I maintain that the Miyajima deer are much better behaved.
Oh yeah, way more chill. I got chased by a deer in Nara because I bought a potato to eat on the street, which is my favorite food. Jagaimo in Japanese, in case you wanted to know. And also on our most recent trip, Gabby got impaled in the behind by a deer. I remember sitting under a little bridge in Miyajima, and a deer just walked up beside me, like sniffing the ground. Not bothering me at all, just let me sit there.
Miyajima is quite beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one shot that we have where you're like slowly panning the camera and it's like on the water with the little bell things hanging from the,
Yeah.
the...
There was a wedding going on at that temple as well.
It was
Thanks
cool.
for reminiscing with us.
Thanks for taking me traveling.
Yeah, I'm glad that you liked it. Otherwise, this marriage would have never worked.
I'm glad that you'll perpetually film me rapping in various places.
For now.
Yeah.
So take luck, camera. And
peace out.
see you next week.
Yeah.
Or this week. Or whenever.